I asked you guys on Instagram what video you wanted to see next, and you spoke, and the results were exactly half and half. So I decided to pick the COVID test. Here we are. If you're anything like me, you probably think you need to go to the Incheon airport in order to get a PCR test done so that you can safely leave South Korea and go back home. But that means you gotta pay money, and I found a way that you actually don't have to pay. My South Korean friends helped me find this way, so thank you to all those friends in advance, and now I'm going to pass the information along to you. So let's get right into it. The first myth I want to tell you is completely not true, is that you need a RT-PCR test in order to go back home. This is not true. An antigen test is also fully acceptable, so you could always do that instead of the PCR test, which ended up costing my friends around 180,000 won in total. I will say the Incheon airport is pretty convenient, and the results do come back within a few hours. So if you have like a later flight in the day, you can arrive to the Incheon airport early, as long as you make the reservation at least 2 weeks in advance, because they fill up real fast. Even though the Incheon airport has all the prices listed, that's not the price that you end up paying. You actually have to also pay for the certification, and you also have to pay for showing up, and you also have to pay for like the translation into English, and it's even more expensive on weekends than it is on weekdays. So I was really happy to find an alternative where I didn't have to pay the monies. Now I will be focusing on Seoul since I was in Seoul, and I think a lot of people are going to be in Seoul since the Incheon airport isn't too far away from Seoul, but this can be done in other cities all across South Korea. The first step, you need to be living somewhere. It could be an Airbnb, it could be a university, but as long as you have an address, the first step is to go to the website that I have linked below and here on the screen. There's going to be a grid on the website, and you're going to find the place in which you live and the place that is free. At the time I lived in Yeongdeung-po, and so I just went to the Yeongdeung-po testing center. Once you have found your testing location that is associated with that address, you just have to show up super early to get the test done. There's only a max number of tests at every testing location every day, and I want to guess it's around maybe 300 or 400 tests, because I arrived at 9 o'clock, which is when they opened, and I was number 235, and within like 20 minutes, I think all the tests were already given out. Now the testing site is like a pop-up tent, and there's going to be signs with the QR code all around it. You're going to have to find 1 or 2 really nice workers who are stressed out by a ton of people crowding them. Find them, and you're going to look for the person that's holding a little white stack of pieces of paper. Those are the numbers. So if you don't get one of those numbers, you can't get a test done. Once you've gotten that little piece of paper, you know that you're going to get a test. So you're good to go, and now you can scan the QR code and fill out that information. There will be a point that you have to put in a registration number. If you do not have a registration number, you're going to put the year that you were born, the last 2 digits, the month, 2 digits, and then the day, 2 digits as well. Then you will put 6 and then 00000 zeros. The QR code is going to ask for your name. Make sure, please, put your full name, including your middle name. In South Korea, their name only has 3 characters, so to them, the middle name is obviously a crucial 1/3 part of your name. So to you, maybe your middle name isn't quite as important, but if it's on your passport, make sure you are also typing it in. Wherever you are currently living, make sure you put that address down, not like home back in another country. If you live in an Airbnb, put that address. If you live at a school, put that address. And most importantly, you will need a phone number of some kind in which they can text you, because that's how you're going to get the results. And there's even more to that, but I will explain that later. You filled the QR code out. You have a little piece of paper. Now it's time to wait for them to call your number. Maybe you are not one yet with the Korean language, but you're studying hard because you're living in Korea and you're going to be respectful, right? Am I right? So you're just not there yet, right? You don't know the numbers. That's okay. I accidentally kind of walked away, I guess, for far too long, because I'm thinking in my head, we're on number 90. I'm number 235. They couldn't possibly call my number anytime soon. And I went on like a 20-minute walk, came back, and they had already called my number. So you could just awkwardly wait and listen. And if you think you're wrong or think you're a little late, just go up and show them your number, and they'll tell you. Don't worry about it too much, but use it as a number practiced opportunity. Once your number is called, there's going to be a bunch of chairs, and you sit in like a line, kind of. So instead of waiting in a long line, you sit in chairs in a line. People will get called individually, and eventually it will be your turn, and they will point you to one of the 4 to 5, maybe 6 booths that are available. They're all numbered, and the person inside of there is going to probably speak Korean to you, but the Korean is simple, and they will try to speak in English if you do not understand. They will ask you, when did you arrive to Korea? How recently? They will also ask if your phone number is correct, if your name is correct, and then they will tell you that you will receive the results tomorrow in a text message. Once they do that, they will then hand you 2 tubes. One tube is for your nose test and one tube is for your throat test. They will then proceed to tell you, oh, go that way. You will take those 2 tests with you and you will walk into a short line in which you're waiting to get the actual test done. This next part, it was a claustrophobic person's nightmare because these women are in these tiny booths with these gloves that are like attached to the wall so they can reach through but have absolutely zero contact with the outside world. Not a single dust particle will touch them. I don't know how they be breathing up in there. You've got these gloves and they reach through and you'll hand them your tube. They'll swab your nose, they'll swab your throat, they'll try to talk to you in Korean. They're basically just saying what they're doing. And then they're gonna ask you to remove your gloves and put them in like a waste bin that's close to the left. And then there's gonna be a cooler behind you. Once they seal them back up, they'll give them back to you and you'll put those 2 tests in the cooler and then get a little bit of hand sanitizer and you'll be on your way. But that's not the end. I wish that was it, but there's more. It gets a little bit more complicated, but first, let's go live to old past me and see what she thought about the experience. Hey Megan, old Megan, me, also me. What did you think of this experience? All right, let's talk about it really quick. If you watch my videos that I talked about getting the PCR test in quarantine, and that guy was like all up in my crevices, this was very fast. The throat one was not bad. The nose one obviously still hurts, but it was very quick. This is a well-oiled machine, y'all. They get you in and out, all really nice, very clean, very thankful. Thank you for your time. Now, I wish things did not get more complicated, but this is when they get a little bit more complicated. The next day, almost exactly 24 hours later, they will text you whether or not you have Corona. If you don't, it'll say in the text that you don't. If you do, then it gets very complicated, so just don't have Rona. So when you get that text that says you are COVID-free, that sadly is not enough proof for the airport. So you need to have a little bit of something else. You need to have a nice little fancy piece of paper. The ways in which you can get that is, I guess you could go to the hospital yourself and ask them to print it off for you, or you can have a wonderful Korean friend who can help you out and they can call these testing sites themselves and say, hey, you know, my friend who got this test is traveling and she needs an official document. So they will then email you that document. Once you get that document, print her out, show up at the airport, and you're good to go. The last time I was in the Incheon airport, I found this little area and it says you can print off documents for free. Love that. So if you want to print your document off, you can do that here. If you do have a connecting flight in a different country than your home country, I would most definitely print the document off, 100%. Now there is a caveat. I am not totally sure why, but there are currently 2 locations in which they can give English translations for free. It just so happened to be in Gangnam-gu, and the other is somewhere in Gangnam, I believe. But just so you know, when I arrived in America, no one ever asked to see my COVID test. The only people that are going to be looking at your test are Koreans. So if you don't have a layover in another country and you're just going straight back to your home country, don't take my word for it, but I think you would be safe with just the Korean version. But if you are going to a different country or you are going to have a layover, I would call that country in advance and ask, does it matter what language my test is in? Because if it doesn't matter, then you don't have to worry about it. Below, I have also listed a place that you can get an antigen test. I believe it's in Gangnam and it's for 70,000 won and the results will come back in a few hours. You do have to call to make a reservation and the reservation time slots were a little bit later in the day, like 3 to 6, 3 to 8. But either way, you get results quickly. It's always good to have a backup plan. Please give this video a like if you found it helpful at all. That'll really help me out, and hit subscribe if you want to see more videos about travel tips and advice. And I will see you guys in the next one.